All right, this is Ecology and Ecosystems Part 4, the last one. So here we go. Now, we talked at the very end of PowerPoint 3 about the biomes, and so we're going to go into a little more detail here. So we're going to start first about the tundra, and the tundra covers about 20% of the Earth's land surface, and it's basically south of the polar seas in the northern hemisphere. And so it says northern hemisphere, it's actually covered up by that picture. Sorry about that. It's very cold and dark most of the year. You really can't grow a whole lot. There's a really short growing season. Minimal precipitation, actually. The ground is constantly frozen. And so there's not a lot of water drainage. And so really the vegetation that can grow there are just short grasses, little shrubs, lichens, which are good food like for reindeer or caribou. The animals that live there tend to be lemmings, um, reindeer, wolves, animals that are very adaptable to the cold. Okay. And the trees don't live there because the growing season is too short and their roots actually can't penetrate the permafrost, okay, under the top layer of soil. And so they can't anchor their roots in shallow soil. So there's really not a lot of trees in the tundra. Okay. Now, the taiga covers the northern part of North America and Eurasia, and it's also like the northern part of Canada. And you do have trees in the taiga that are well adapted to the really cold climate, thick bark, and really more needles than leaves. They have cone-bearing trees like pine, spruce, firs, aspens, ones like that, and then also moss and lichens. Okay, and the animals that live there are very adapted to the cold, just like in the tundra. You have bears, moose, muskrats, beavers, things like that. Now, the temperate rainforest, that's the western coast of the United States and also Canada, so kind of up near like Washington State, where it rains all the time. Plentiful rainfall, rich soil, produces lots of really tall trees. You have the old growth forest, and where you see the redwood trees, and some trees can grow up to be like 800 years old. Okay. And then you also have the coniferous forest near the mountain tops where you have a lot of wild animals like mountain lions and wolverines. Now, the temperate deciduous forest, that's where we live in Texarkana, and that's eastern North America, Europe, eastern Asia. We have well-defined seasons, pretty long growing season. There's lots of farming in our area, pretty high precipitation. It rains here quite a lot. The vegetation that's here, you can see oak trees, beech trees, broadleaf deciduous trees, and also pine trees. And then you have tall trees that form a canopy. And then you have shrubs and vegetation below, like kudzu, a lot of ivy, things like that. Lichens, lots of ferns. Okay. And then the animals that live here, obviously lots of squirrels, small herbivores. You have deer, beavers, and foxes, some black bears. Really, you see a lot of diversity in amphibians and reptiles, then more diversity there than you would see like in the taiga, because the winters here are not as cold as the taiga has. Now, tropical forests, those are found in South America, Africa, Southeast Asia. The weather is always warm and it is always raining, just about. And this is a biome with the greatest diversity of plants and animal species. And so a lot of researchers like to go. You can find animals in those areas that you can't find anywhere else in the world. For instance, like the lemurs in Madagascar, the birds of paradise that are found in New Guinea. Okay, things like that. Many levels of life. A lot of animals live in the trees. And it's the richest land biome with the greatest diversity. You have largest carnivores and big cats. Okay. Now, the shrublands, The shrublands tend to occur along the coast that have dry summers and get a lot of their rain in the winter. Okay, this is kind of like California. Okay, you have shrubs with waxy leaves that are actually adapted to dry conditions, and they're subject to burn off from fires due to the dryness. You see a lot of animals like jackrabbits, gophers, prairie dogs, coyotes, animals that are used to, living in kind of like a desert, but with some shrubs. It's not as hot as a desert, but it's very, very dry like a desert. And some of these plants can quickly regrow after a fire, and actually the seeds of many species that live in the shrublands require the heat and scarring action of fire to actually make germination of these plants. Okay, and due to the reason it's so dry, that's one reason why the basically the fires in California and like Arizona tend to be so bad. Okay, it's very, very dry in the shrublands. Now the grasslands, that's where you have rainfall that's greater than 25 centimeters a year, but you really don't see a lot of trees too much. And you have grasses that are well adapted to when the environment changes based on the rainfall. You have like North American prairies, the African savanna. You can see large herds of like bison, antelope. You see lots of rabbits and mice and prairie dogs. You can also see, like on the African savanna, elephants and giraffes and water buffaloes, hyenas, cheetahs, lions, all the things that you see like on Animal Planet or the Discovery Channel. Okay, so there's a lot of animals there. There's definitely a hierarchy in the food chain. Okay, and the big cats tend to live up at the top. Okay, like these cheetah here. Now, deserts. Deserts are found in both the northern and southern hemisphere. The annual rainfall is less than 25 centimeters, so you get a lot less rain than you would in the grasslands. And not a lot of trees in the deserts. You have a lack of cloud cover, so you have really hot days but very cold nights. And heat escapes very easily into the atmosphere. Okay, which is one reason why there's such a huge temperature range on deserts. Most deserts have a variety of plants, and they have some cactuses that actually you can eat, and sagebrush, which you can't eat. And then a lot of them are burrowing animals that they basically have to burrow or live in some kind of hole, and they come out at night so that they can avoid the heat of day. Now, aquatic ecosystems, basically you have freshwater or you have saltwater, and brackish water is kind of a mixture of fresh and salt water. Okay, like estuaries, the delta, lagoons, tidal marshes, like the intercoastal waterway near the coast. Okay, things like that. Now, lakes tend to be freshwater, and they are classified by their nutrient abundance. If there's oligotrophic, like this second picture down here, then that's nutrient poor, and so you have low productivity. Basically, you're not going to have a lot of fish living there, and you'll have small amounts of organic matter. And then eutrophic, nutrient rich, that's when you have excess nitrogen inputs. And actually, I made a mistake here. The bottom picture is going to be more eutrophic than oligotrophic. You'll have more fish dying there. So eutrophic, that would be the second picture. Sorry, that's my fault. I won't test you over that, I promise. Basically, where you have a lot of algae bloom, you just need to remember that your fish populations are going to be a lot lower. But I will not test you over oligotrophic or eutrophic, so don't worry about that. Now, oceans. Oceans are the very largest biome of all. Really, they cover 3/4 of our planet, and lots and lots of marine life, many, many animals. You have currents that circulate clockwise, and then you have animals that will migrate, like great white sharks, that can migrate, many, many miles. And basically, you have warm water that gets distributed, okay, to the east coast of North America, and then Western Europe also, just due to the currents. Now, biodiversity, that's just the number of species found in a given area or an ecosystem. And their estimate is that there are probably between 10 and 50 million species in all. Okay, we've classified about 1.9 species, but there's probably many, many more than that because animals such as insects are constantly evolving. Okay, and then 75,000 species worldwide are endangered. Okay, things like tigers or black rhinos, they may be extinct now actually, are constantly being hunted for their fur or for their tusks if they're a rhino or an elephant, and also for their meat too by poachers. And so there are many, many species worldwide, about 75,000 that are endangered of extinction. And if we look here, the distribution of animals, really um, insects or arthropods, there's lots and lots of them, okay, millions, and then about 300,000 or so plants compared to, the insects, and then animals, okay, basically with a backbone, 375,000, and then the protists and bacteria and fungi fill in the rest. So this is just showing you kind of the comparison of how many more insects there are than plants or animals or microorganisms. Now, 5 causes of species extinctions. The first one is habitat loss. When coral reefs tend to get basically bumped into a lot by boats or by ships, then that can sort of disrupt the biodiversity, and it will disrupt the living there, all the animals that live on the coral reef. And then places like the tropical rainforest, when the trees get cut down, the animals have to move to find shelter. Okay, so habitat loss is a big, big part for species extinctions. Basically, these animals run out of places to live. You can have exotic species that are being introduced. They disrupt the balance of a community because they can mess up the food web. They'll change the interactions between species in a food web and cause some species not to have the food that they need, or they get eaten. Okay, one of the two. Pollution, obviously chemical dumping, global warming, the warming up of the oceans can decrease the amount of oxygen that's in the water, and that can of course kill a lot of the marine life. You can have overexploitation, which is what happens when the number of individuals taken from a wild population is so great that the population is reduced in numbers, and so these animals have trouble reproducing. Okay. And then also disease, things like bird flu, swine flu, diseases that can be spread from domesticated animals over to wild ones. Okay, can also cause species extinctions. And then some species in danger are usually in danger because of more than one reason. All right, and that is all. Thank you. Thank you.